In a small, dusty town called Riverton, where dreams were considered a luxury and survival was the only real goal, lived a boy named Ethan Cole. Ethan was 17, and according to almost everyone around him, he was nothing special. His school was old, its walls cracked, and its classrooms filled with tired teachers and tired students. Most boys there believed their future was already decided. Work at the factory, help their families, grow old, and disappear quietly. Ethan was supposed to be the same, but he wasn't. Every morning, Ethan woke up before sunrise, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. He helped his mother prepare breakfast, carried water from the public pump, and then rushed to school with worn-out shoes and a bag held together by hope more than stitches. His father had died when Ethan was 12, a factory accident. One moment he was there, the next he was gone. No compensation, no justice, just silence. From that day on, Ethan learned something early in life. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. At school, Ethan was quiet, not because he had nothing to say, but because whenever he spoke, someone laughed. Why do you even try? You think you're smart? People like us don't succeed. Those words followed him like shadows. His math teacher once said in front of the whole class, "Ethan, you're hard-working, but hard work won't fix a weak mind." The class laughed. Ethan didn't. He just lowered his head and wrote the words in his notebook. Not to remember them, but to prove them wrong one day. You see, Ethan had a secret. At night, after everyone slept, he studied. Not because anyone told him to, not because he had resources, but because he refused to believe his life had already ended before it began. He borrowed books from the old town library, books no one touched, books covered in dust and forgotten dreams. Science, biographies, self-improvement, history, anything he could find. One night, he read a line that changed something inside him. Your current situation is not your final destination. Ethan closed the book and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in years, he smiled. But motivation alone doesn't make life easier. The next day, reality hit hard. The school announced a national scholarship exam. Only one student from the entire town could qualify. The winner would get full financial support for college. Teachers whispered names. Ethan's name was not one of them. When he went home and told his mother, she looked at him with tired eyes. "Ethan," she said softly, "dreams are expensive." "I know," he replied. "That's why I'm willing to pay the price." She wanted to believe him. She really did. But life had taught her not to hope too much. That night, Ethan made a decision. He wrote on the first page of a new notebook, "I will not be invisible forever." From that day on, he studied harder than ever before. While others slept, he read. While others complained, he practiced. While others gave excuses, he improved. But improvement is lonely. Friends stopped calling him. Teachers ignored him. People mocked his efforts. "You think studying will change your life?" "Yes," he whispered to himself. "I do." One evening, exhausted and frustrated, Ethan failed a practice test badly. He stared at his score and felt something dangerous rise in his chest. Doubt. For the first time, he thought, what if they're right? What if I'm wasting my time? He walked outside, sat alone on the steps, and felt tears burn his eyes. Then he remembered his father. He remembered his mother's tired hands. He remembered every insult, every laugh, every door closed on him. And suddenly, something inside him hardened. Pain turned into fuel. He stood up and said out loud, even though no one was listening, "I may be slow, I may be ignored, but I will not stop." That night, he studied again, not with hope, but with determination. What Ethan didn't know was this: life was watching, and soon it would test him in ways he never imagined. The weeks before the national scholarship exam were brutal. Not because the syllabus was hard, but because life refused to slow down. Ethan's mornings were filled with chores, his afternoons with school, and his nights with study that stretched until his eyes burned and his hands shook from exhaustion. Still, it never felt like enough. At school, the pressure grew heavier every day. The top students were given special attention, extra classes, encouragement, confidence. Ethan was given silence. One afternoon, as he stayed back to solve problems on the board, a teacher walked past and said, without stopping, "Don't push yourself too hard, Ethan. Some limits can't be crossed." But the words weren't loud, but they landed like a hammer. That night, Ethan stared at his books and felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Not fear of failure, fear of trying his absolute best and still losing. The day everything went wrong. The mock exam was supposed to be Ethan's turning point. He had prepared, truly prepared. When the results were announced, students gathered around the notice board. Laughter, cheers, high fives. Ethan pushed forward. He scanned the list once, then again. His name was there, but not where he expected. Rank 27 out of 30. His chest tightened. Someone behind him laughed. "Told you," they said. "Hard work doesn't beat talent." Ethan walked home slowly. That evening, he didn't open a book. He didn't eat much. He didn't speak. His mother noticed. "What happened?" she asked gently. Ethan forced a smile. Nothing. But inside him, a war was raging. That night, as rain hit the tin roof, Ethan sat alone, holding his notebook, the one where he had written, "I will not be invisible forever." For the first time, he thought of tearing it apart. The mentor no one expected. The next day, Ethan skipped school. Instead, he went to the town library, not to study, just to escape. The library was almost empty, as usual. Dust floated in the sunlight. Old books whispered forgotten stories. That's when he heard a voice. "You're early today." Ethan turned. An old man sat near the window, reading. He wore simple clothes, glasses slightly broken, and had calm eyes that seemed to notice everything. "I see you here often," the man said, "but today you look defeated." Ethan didn't reply. The man closed his book. "My name is Mr. Hale," he said. "I used to be a teacher." "Used to be," Ethan thought bitterly. "Why do you study so hard?" Mr. Hale asked. Ethan finally spoke. "Because I don't want this life." Mr. Hale smiled. Not kindly, not mockingly, but knowingly. "That's a dangerous reason," he said, "and a powerful one." Ethan told him everything. The exam, the mock test, the doubt. When he finished, Mr. Hale said something Ethan didn't expect. "Good." Ethan frowned. "Good?" "Yes," Mr. Hale said. "Now your ego is broken. That's where real learning begins." Ethan stared at him. Hale leaned forward. "Tell me, do you want to pass the exam, or do you want to become capable?" The question hit hard. I want to change my life," Ethan said quietly. "Then stop measuring yourself against others," Mr. Hale replied. "Measure yourself against who you were yesterday." From that day on, everything changed. Training, not studying. Mr. Hale didn't teach Ethan answers. He taught him how to think. "Your problem isn't intelligence," he said. "It's belief." They met every evening in the library. Mr. Hale challenged him, questioned him, made him uncomfortable. When Ethan failed, Mr. Hale made him face it. And slowly, step by step, he grew. Hale smiled. "When you fail here," he said, "you don't fail there." Slowly, painfully, Ethan improved. Not faster than everyone, but deeper. The night before the real exam, Ethan couldn't sleep. Doubt returned, quieter but sharper. What if this still isn't enough? He remembered something Mr. Hale had told him. Courage isn't confidence. Courage is moving forward despite fear. Ethan closed his eyes. For the first time, he wasn't chasing success. He was chasing growth. The exam hall was silent. Ethan sat down, took a deep breath, and opened the paper. The first question was hard. So was the second. Panic tried to rise, but he stopped. Think, he told himself, clearly. Question by question, he moved forward. Not rushing, not freezing. When time was up, Ethan put his pen down. He didn't know if he had won, but he knew something else. He hadn't lost himself. What Ethan didn't know was that the results would shake the entire town, and that success, when it comes, brings its own challenges. The results were announced on a Monday morning. The town of Riverton rarely buzzed with excitement, but that day felt different. Students crowded around the school notice board. Teachers whispered. Parents waited anxiously outside the gates. Ethan wasn't there. He was at the library. Mr. Hale sat across from him, calmly turning a page. "You're not nervous?" Ethan asked. Mr. Hale smiled. "I've already seen the result that matters." Ethan didn't understand. Then footsteps echoed. A student burst into the library, breathless. "Ethan," he shouted, your name is on the top." The room went silent. "What?" Ethan whispered. "You ranked first," the boy said, "in the entire district." For a moment, Ethan couldn't breathe. First? Not second, not third. First. Mr. Hale closed his book. "I told you," he said softly. "Growth beats talent." The town that once ignored him. By afternoon, everyone knew. Teachers who once ignored Ethan now smiled at him. Students who mocked him now congratulated him. People who never said his name now spoke it proudly. Such a brilliant boy. We always knew he had potential. Ethan listened quietly. But something felt wrong. Their words felt light. Too light. That evening, as he walked home, neighbors stopped him. "You'll make us proud. Don't forget us when you're successful." Ethan nodded politely. But inside, he felt heavier than ever. The conversation that grounded him. At home, his mother cried when she saw the letter. She held it like it might disappear. "You did it," she said, voice shaking. "You really did it." Ethan hugged her tightly. But later that night, he sat alone. Success had arrived. So why didn't he feel complete? The next day, he went to the library. Mr. Hale was waiting. "I don't feel how I thought I would," Ethan admitted. "Everyone's treating me differently." Mr. Hale nodded. "Success doesn't change who people are," he said. "It reveals them." Ethan thought about that. "What should I do now?" he asked. Mr. Hale's gaze was steady. "You have to decide who you want to be, now that you are known." Hale looked at him seriously. "Now," he said, "you decide what kind of man success will make you." The offer. A week later, a letter arrived. Not from a college, from a private institute. They offered Ethan immediate admission, special treatment, even money, on one condition. He had to publicly represent them, promote them, say he succeeded because of them. Ethan read the letter twice. The offer was tempting, very tempting. When he showed it to his mother, her eyes widened. "This could change everything," she said carefully. Ethan knew that tone. It was hope mixed with fear. That night, he went to see Mr. Hale. "This is your test," Mr. Hale said, after reading the letter. "Isn't the exam already over?" Ethan asked. Hale shook his head. "The hardest exams come after success." The decision. Ethan thought about his journey. The nights alone. The insults. The library. The truth. He picked up a pen and wrote a polite refusal. When his mother saw it, she was shocked. "Why would you say no?" she asked. Ethan looked at her gently. "Because I didn't struggle for years to sell a lie," he said. "I want to stand on truth, even if it's slower." Tears filled her eyes. This time they weren't from fear. They were from pride. The goodbye, the scholarship letter arrived soon after. A full ride. A real opportunity. The night before he left Riverton, Ethan visited the library one last time. Hale wasn't there. On the table lay a note. "You no longer need a mentor. Become one." Ethan swallowed hard. For the first time, he understood. Success wasn't the destination. Character was. But life wasn't done testing him yet. Because the world outside Riverton was bigger and far less forgiving. The city was louder than Ethan had imagined. Tall buildings, fast people, endless competition. In Riverton, Ethan had been the boy who succeeded. Here, he was just another name on a list. College was nothing like school. No one waited for him to catch up. No one cared how hard his journey had been. Everyone was smart. Everyone was ambitious. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt small. The first semester hit him hard. Lectures moved too fast. Students spoke with confidence Ethan didn't have. Some had resources, connections, backgrounds he could only imagine. His first major test result came back. Below average. The paper trembled in his hands. Whispers filled the room. That scholarship kid? Guess he's not that special. That night, Ethan sat alone in his dorm room. No library, no Mr. Hale, no familiar walls. Just silence and doubt. Weeks passed. Ethan tried harder. Studied longer. But effort didn't seem to translate into results. One evening, after another poor presentation, he locked himself in the bathroom and stared at the mirror. "You don't belong here," the voice in his head said. "They were right. You just got lucky." His phone buzzed. A message from his mother. "No matter what happens, we are proud of you." Ethan closed his eyes. For a moment, quitting felt peaceful. Then he remembered something Mr. Hale had once said, "If you quit now, you'll spend your life wondering who you could have become." Ethan took a deep breath and made a choice. Rebuilding from zero. The next day, Ethan did something different. He asked for help. He spoke to professors, joined study groups, listened more than he spoke. It was uncomfortable, but it was honest. Slowly, he stopped trying to prove himself and started trying to improve himself. He managed his time better, focused on fundamentals, accepted that struggle wasn't failure, it was training. The real test. Near the end of the year, a national-level competition was announced. Only a few students would be selected. Friends warned him, "You're still adjusting. Don't risk it." Ethan remembered Riverton. He applied anyway. The preparation was intense. Nights blurred into mornings. Failures returned. But this time, he didn't panic. On the final day, as he stood among the best students in the country, Ethan felt calm. Not confident, prepared. When the results were announced, his name was called. Not first, not second, but selected. Ethan smiled. This victory felt different. It was quiet. Earned. The letter. At the end of the year, Ethan received a letter from Riverton School. They wanted him to speak to students. Ethan held the letter for a long time. Then he replied yes. Because he finally understood. Your past doesn't define your limits, and your success doesn't erase your struggle. It gives it meaning. Remained. One last test. Not of intelligence, but of purpose. End of part 4. Type part 5 for the final chapter. Part 5 main. Ethan ka return. Ek powerful speech. Or story ka message. Jo aap apni life mein le ja sakte ho. Riverton looked smaller than Ethan remembered. The same dusty roads. The same quiet houses. The same school with cracked walls. But Ethan was different. He wasn't returning as a hero. He was returning as proof. The hall full of doubt. The school hall was packed. Students sat where Ethan once sat, tired, distracted, unsure. Teachers stood at the back. Some recognized him. Some didn't. When Ethan stepped onto the stage, he paused. He saw himself in their faces. And then he began. "I was told I wasn't smart enough," he said calmly. "I was told people like us don't succeed." A murmur spread. "I failed mock tests. I doubted myself. I wanted to quit more times than I can count." The room was silent now. "But I learned something important," Ethan continued. "Success isn't about being special. It's about being consistent when no one is watching." He didn't give shortcuts. He didn't sell dreams. He told the truth. "That voice telling you to stop," he said, "it never disappears. You just learn not to obey it." Students leaned forward. "Don't chase applause," Ethan said. "Chase progress. Progress stays." At the end, he smiled. "If you feel invisible today," he said softly, "remember this. Invisibility is temporary, but giving up is permanent." The library, one last time. After the speech, Ethan walked to the library. The same tables, the same sunlight. A new librarian stood there. "Looking for something?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "I found it here once," he said. Before leaving, he placed a small note on the table. "This place changes lives. Protect it." Years later, Ethan stood in a modern classroom. Not as a student, as a mentor. He had returned not to escape Riverton, but to lift it. He started scholarships, mentorship programs, even rebuilt the library. When asked why, he always answered the same way. "Because someone once believed in me when I didn't." The final truth. Ethan's story wasn't about exams or ranks or trophies. It was about choosing growth over comfort, about standing back up when no one claps, about becoming one day the person you once needed. The message for you. If you're struggling right now, if progress feels slow, if doubt feels loud, remember this. You don't need to be extraordinary. You just need to keep going. Your persistence will speak for you.